With new technology, we have simulated the complete draining of the ocean. Billions of tons of liquid vanished in a single second. What was revealed on the floor will plunge you into true shock.
In this video, we descend to the very bottom of the Mariana Trench.
We will uncover the true, ancient cities hidden from us by governments, and witness the largest shipwrecks in human history. You will not believe your eyes when you see what lies beneath our feet.
Watch until the end, because the truth about the ocean will change your reality.
Let's begin. Our experiment begins, and the water level drops 150 meters, revealing not just wet sand, but sticky, toxic sludge surrounding the planet. The first thing that catches the eye is the unnatural amount of findings. On every meter of the path, the floor of the Northern Sea becomes a massive historical junkyard, where eras have mixed into one big pile. Rusted fishing boat hulls lie side by side with Viking ships, all covered in a thick layer of grey silt. We see how submarines from the world wars protrude from the mud.
Their metal is eaten away by salt and covered in colonies of dead coral.
But we can clearly see the holes from deep-sea bombs.
This area is the largest and most chaotic cemetery in the world,
where the bones of millions of sailors and travelers lie. But while we examine the rusted metal, the air around us begins to change, preparing a surprise more terrifying than any shipwreck. What we see now is not just mud, but a biological bomb. A slow-acting biological bomb.
This silt consists of billions of tons of rotting organic matter
and plankton remains that have been accumulating here for millennia. And turns into a small, toxic dust. The wind lifts the air and poisonous clouds, saturated with heavy metals like mercury and lead,
which we ourselves have been dumping into the ocean for centuries.
Salt storms of an unprecedented scale cover coastal megacities,
like New York or Tokyo, filling the lungs of residents with poison. This ecological disaster is worse than Chernobyl,
because it happens everywhere at once, and there is nowhere to hide from it. The stench drives people crazy and causes panic.
We understand that the ocean was not just a water storage,
but a giant filter that held this hazardous substance at the bottom. Now the filter is gone, and the planet begins to suffocate itself. However, this toxic cloud hides not only an ecological threat, but stone secrets that humanity would prefer to forget forever. Now we turn our gaze to those mysterious parts of the floor, about which scientists and conspiracy theorists have been arguing for decades. Without water, we finally see the strange figures that the military noticed on their radars as anomalies. Off the coasts of Cuba and Japan, stone blocks protrude from the deep mud. These are not just rocks, but the ruins of something very ancient and majestic. Massive buildings, the height of a 9-story house, stand in the silence of the dry floor, casting long shadows. Previously, we only saw blurry spots in satellite images. But now we can walk along these wide avenues and touch the cold stone. Threatened. The feeling is that we have entered a city of giants. Some walls look as if time-worn carvings have been preserved on them, and the arrangement of the stones is too symmetrical for the random play of nature. We stand before these walls and feel the breath of an unknown civilization. But science is already ready to douse us with a cold shower of facts. Official science gives its hard explanation for these terrifying findings. Nature knows how to create perfect geometric shapes without any help from humans. What we feared as streets and walls often turn out to be cracks in the rocks, which split into even cubes upon cooling. But even if we remove these illusions, we find real traces of people where they shouldn't be. We see real settlements of the Stone Age. That slowly went underwater when glaciers melted 12,000 years ago. This is not fantasy, but the harsh reality of climate change.
Ancient stone houses and sanctuaries really stand on the bottom, densely overgrown with coral and shells. They were not hidden from us on purpose. Just studying them under thick and muddy water was too complex and incredibly expensive.
Good. The ocean kept these places as a giant and reliable time capsule.
But let's leave these coastal mysteries behind.
Because the water is receding further. Opening up a true abyss where there is no place for humans.
The water recedes further, and we reach a depth of 4 kilometers. Before us open up huge plains that occupy half of the entire planet.
This is the flattest and most boring place on Earth.
There are no mountains, no hills, only endless gray clay in all directions.
This layer of mud has been accumulating for millions of years, from dust and the remains of small organisms.
Imagine a field the size of a continent, where there is nothing but silence and viscous sludge.
Walking here on foot is dangerous.
Legs will sink to the knees. It is always dark here, even during the day.
Because the sun doesn't reach here.
But in this emptiness, we suddenly notice strange, straight lines that stretch across the entire floor.
They look completely alien here. This landscape puts pressure on the psyche. Astronauts say that even on the moon, it is more interesting than on these dead fields. A human will get lost here immediately.
Because there is nothing for the eye to catch on. This is an ideal prison, the size of a continent.
Where silence is so loud that you start hearing voices in your head. You walk on a floor that hasn't changed for a whole eternity.
And it becomes scary. It seems that you are the only living human in the entire universe.
And right here, in this dead silence,
lies a thin and fragile thread. On which the lives of billions of people above depend.
These mysterious lines on the floor
are the main artery of our modern digital civilization.
These are trunk fiber optic cables that connect continents and physically transmit 99% of all world internet traffic.
Without the protective layer of water, they lie completely unprotected. Thin threads directly on the surface of eternal mud.
We are used to thinking of satellites and cloud technologies as something sublime. But the physical reality of the internet looks like a simple garden hose thrown into a pit.
These cables were laid by special ships. And they are not fixed by anything. Just resting on the ground under their own weight.
In the water, they are in relative safety.
Thanks to the monstrous pressure and constant cold, which serve as the best protection. But in the open air, under the scorching sun, their protective shell will begin to melt. And the cables themselves will begin to tear under their own weight. On the irregularities of the relief,